Welcome to another episode of the Chicks on the Right podcast, where we have our friend and sponsor of the show, Zach Abraham from Bulwark Capital Management, with us. And today we got to talk about what Kamala has planned for our country if she wins, specifically this whole thing about unrealized capital gains. So for people who may be new to that term, can you just give a very brief explanation of what it is and why it sucks monkey balls?
So the unrealized capital gains thing is not too hard to understand. I think the best analogy, and I've used this with our clients, is let's say we bought a house. Okay, today we're going to go sell it $700,000. Okay, and we bought it, let's say in 2004 for $250,000, right? Now, there's other things that you have to look at. There's depreciation that applies to houses, and there's other different things. But let's just say, all in all, your cost when you purchased it and the updates you've done, you've got $250,000 into the house. You're going to sell it for $7,000. So that means that you have $450,000 of unrealized cap gains. Okay. So when you sell your house for $700,000, the good news is you don't have to pay taxes on all that $700,000 because some of it's your cost. But you're paying it on that $450,000 of cap gains. Well, what this law would do is pretty much at any point, I don't even know how the execution of it would play out, but what the law would do is it allow the government to tell you, well, now we think that you owe us money on that unrealized cap gain. Okay, well, what if you don't want to sell your house? And what if this, and they're like, oh, it's only going to apply to rich people. Well, there's a lot of farmers out there that have, over $100 million worth of land that might only make, when it's all said and done, maybe they're making, $200,000, $300,000 a year.
Yep.
If you want to hit them on an unrealized cap gain on that farm that's been in their family for 100 years, what are they going to do to pay that?
Right?
Uh-huh.
And so nobody thinks about that. But here's the real pernicious part of that. And I feel like the best way to look at this is through land. Now, this would apply to stocks as well. And here's the part about it that is the scary part. And this is always the way. This is always the way that the camel gets his nose under the tent. Let's think about property taxes or property, right? So,
and that's what I'm concerned about. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So
land.
Right. So the government already has the ability to charge you rent on that land into perpetuity, right? It's called property tax. Okay.
Yep.
If the government has a riskless right to rent into perpetuity on the land, and the government can also trigger when you have to realize the profit on that land, therefore paying taxes on it, it really calls into question legally who owns the land.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you especially if it's just land that you're holding or whatever, you don't get guaranteed rent income on that land every year. The government does.
Right.
Okay? You don't decide when you sell that land and realize the profit. The government does.
Okay,
right?
but here's a question though. So like say because I know a lot of ranchers around here that it's kind of like the same situation that you're talking about with the farming. It's very similar where they don't make a lot of money. These are not rich people. These are people who work like 3 jobs but they have a crap ton of land and they're sitting on it because that's what they do. And they sit on it because they love the land and they have livestock on it and they have crops on it and they do good with the land. They're not just sitting on it because they're like business developers who are just sitting on the land to like put development on it. Anyways, my point is that say they bought that land, like say they had just one plot of land, they bought it for like $100,000. And now I don't know, just we feel like it's worth $1 million now. Like, because it's been sitting there for 20 years or whatever, can they tax them on that because we feel like it's worth more? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. I'd also be really interested to see under their plan what Mar-a-Lago is now worth, because I guarantee you it's worth more than 18 million now. Right.
Oh my God. That's such a great point, Zach.
Right? Like all of a sudden they're going to be like, well, Mr. Trump, you owe us worth $800 million, right? You owe us
oh my gosh.
serious tax revenue.
That is brilliant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this is the whole issue with it. I am far less concerned. And people are like, oh, you're not worth $100 million. Who cares? Well, you got to step back and take a look at the fact that we live under a legal system that is based in precedent. Okay. So if you pass a law that compels people when the government orders them to realize the gains on an asset that's long been held on something like that, it somehow legally is changing the definition of ownership.
Right.
That will trickle down to the rest of us. You can bet your bottom dollar it will. Right?
Yeah.
And how are they even figuring out what, like, how, when they say 100 million in net worth right now, which is their cutoff, so that's why there's all these Democrats going, you don't have to worry about it because you don't have 100. But like, how are they even calculating net worth, and how is this going to prevent them from taxing into oblivion capital gains on your investment portfolios?
Right.
Oh no, and that's where it's headed. And look, there is something. I don't think that there is anything more pernicious than and such class warfare and so divisive to sit there and say, well, you're not worth 100 million. You don't have anything to worry about. Listen, when government is impeding on the rights of private citizens, I don't care what their net worth is.
Exactly.
I have a problem with that because you are creating precedent, right? You are literally legally changing the definition of what the ownership of an asset is. We always have to bend ourselves to, like, again with land holdings, to the government's supposed right to income for perpetuity, right? Into perpetuity. And then they control when we realize the gain, how much tax we pay. Like I said, that is substantively changing the definition of the ownership of private assets.
Right.
And that's what I have a problem with. I don't care. I know the way you're going to get that camel's nose under the tent is by telling me, we're only going after the rich people, right? But you're changing the definition. And that's going to get used against me.
It's like we fought a revolution over a tea tax.
Right.
And then we're having this conversation. Like, how many ways can I bend over and be taxed?
What you described is the families that's owned the asset for a long time, the farm, people that are cash poor, asset rich.
Yeah.
These are the only people that are going to pay the tax. If you're with a couple $100 million and you made it all working at a tech company, guess what you're going to do? You see this legislation hit DC. You're going to open a Bahamian, registered LLC. You're going to move the assets offshore, and you're never going to pay the tax. But if you own a farm that's been handed down through generations, you got no choice.
God,
right?
So frustrating.
So it isn't going to raise a meaningful amount of revenue at all because it's too easy to sidestep it. Okay, and then B, the only people that are going to end up paying it are the people that you're not targeting, supposedly, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a farce, and it will end up being paid by middle-class working people because, like I said, it will change the definition of ownership legally. Right. And if you don't think they're going to try to extrapolate that down the wealth curve coming for the rest of us, you're out of your mind and haven't been paying attention for the last 100 years, right? Or the last thousands of years, just the way government works. But no, it's completely ridiculous. It is a grab of private assets. This will do nothing to balance the budget. It won't even make a dent in deficits.
They don't even care about balancing the budget. They just want more of our money.
They want more control. They want more control. They want more control over everything. And now it's like they want to take it disgusts me because I'm a rural person. And so I look at some of these already family owned ranches and farms, and they're already getting screwed. And it's like, this is all they've got to hand it down to their children. It's like, you want to take that too? Screw you.
Well, I think about like this getting applied to my business, right? You could use industry standards and you could come up with a pretty big valuation for Bulwark, right? It's a successful business. The valuation, first of all, I would never sell it, but the valuation of Bulwark, if I was to sell it, it's a fairly large number, but I don't have anywhere near that type of cash on hand. So basically they could compel me to have to give up my business.
Yeah.
Right. So
in order to pay the tax bill, which is freaking crazy.
It is. That's fascism.
Or check it out. Their good buddies at Goldman Sachs and BlackRock will come up with capital gains financing packages for you. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So you don't have to sell your asset, and your good buddies at BlackRock who paid how many millions of dollars into your campaign, now they got a whole nother lending business that didn't exist before. Guys, it's corrupt down to the core. And I guarantee you that'll happen. I guarantee you the BlackRocks of the world are telling them this is a good idea, right? Because it's going to
she's elected.
If she's
elected.
She's elected.
We just have to hope that we outnumber the dumbasses. We have to just hope.
We gotta.
Well, and you're at a point too where people are like, look, I don't think about, I don't like Donald Trump. And I go, stop, guys. It doesn't matter. Okay. If the other side is running a bull mastiff, you got to vote for him. Right. Like this is going to do no good for anybody. And when you think about changes like she's proposing and that she's talking about, these are things that aren't easily undone.
No.
Right? Like this could be kind of death nail, and I don't want to be too hyperbolic, right?
No.
But you're going down the path of socialism. Look,
totally.
It is.
Yeah, it's like this. She talks about seizing patents. I mean, there's all sorts of things that she's talked about that are absolutely socialist, but people are like, well, I mean, she's a woman,
but
and
she's black and she's so joyful.
Right.
Well, my
There's
wife's
a lot of
black
joy.
and a woman, and she's got a master's degree. I mean, run her for president, for God's sake, if that's the criteria, right?
Yeah.
I
got
would vote
three
for
kids
her.
that are part
I
black.
would vote for her too, Zach.
Yeah,
I would vote
yeah.
for her too.
She's even got 3 biological kids that are part black. I mean, shoot, that's like a racial revolution, baby.
There you go. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Thank you, Zach, for explaining it all and raising some really important points that I'm absolutely sure a lot of people haven't even considered. So we appreciate it. How can people listen to more of your pearls of wisdom?
Great info.
Yeah,
Great
well,
info.
I save them for you guys. So, right. I don't have
Thank you,
anymore.
Zach.
No, easiest way to you can Google Know Your Risk Radio podcast. We do our daily show, the Daily Dots, where we cover everything of significance that's gone on in the world of finance and economics and politics as it relates to finance and economics. It's all on our podcast, no paywall. Do interviews with special guests every once in a while. So
love it.
Yeah, you get all that. KnowYourRiskRadio.com, BulwarkCapitalManagement.com. We're not too hard to find.
Check it out, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Love it.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Zach.
you, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.